Ladies and gentlemen, I would firstly like to take this unique opportunity of saying thank you to Haileybury. I went to the junior school in 1949 and came here to Melville in 55, all thanks to the generosity of the Haileybury Fund, which paid for my entire education for 10 years on account of the fact that my father, who was here before me, was killed in Burma in the Second World War. For that generosity, I have always been grateful. And when I come back to the school now, even after all these years, I still feel a strong sense of belonging and affection. Ladies and gentlemen, over the last 2 or 3 years, I have been accumulating some words in my mind, and I have tried to assemble them into a coherent order. I call them very personal reflections on passing 70. You may not all like them. One of the most popular, successful books of my generation was The Odessa File by Frederick Forsyth. And the second chapter of the novel contained a letter, and the letter started with the words, "My name is Solomon Tauber." I often feel that passing 70, one's traditionally allotted lifespan of 70 years, perhaps gives us the occasion to glance down from the lofty firmament of our privileged lives and to look at the lives of others. Not just others now, but others now and at all times, and to reflect on all that we have, and perhaps a little of that which we have lost. All of us here now have lived and are living in a period of unparalleled wealth and social stability. The opportunities available to us in all areas of life would astonish previous generations. Look at the arts. We are told that God listens to Bach, while the angels prefer Mozart. And yet we, mere mortals, often at the touch of an electronic button, can experience the stunning cultural flowering of the last 1,000 and sometimes 5,000 years. And travel. We can travel to the remotest regions of the world in embarrassing comfort. We can eat exotic foods every day of the week, flown in from thousands of miles away. And think what science and medicine have done to improve our lives. And some are uplifted by faith. Faith in a spiritual existence beyond themselves. And over and above all of that, we as human beings are capable of experiencing what we call love. Gentlemen, do you not recall the first time that you lay in the arms of the woman you love and felt the softness of her body on your fingertips? Do most of us not remember the love and pride we felt when we saw our children in their first school uniform? Any of us, any person in the whole world can touch and often even hold on to the fragile gossamer of emotional fulfillment. But as much as there are these moments for which there are no words, the corrosive acid of persecution and deliberate cruelty which has blighted human history is even now ever before our faces. I was driving in South London some years ago when I heard a story on the radio, a personal story which was so harrowing that I had to stop the car. I will tell you that story. The setting was in one of the genocidal tribal conflicts in Africa. I don't even remember which one. It hardly matters. This lady was with her 3 children and her baby. She was surrounded by the militia of the opposing tribe. One of the children escaped. They murdered the other 2. They raped the woman. And in the final act, which was a crime against the very meaning of the word humanity, they forced her to hang her own baby. Solomon Tauber continued with the words, I do not hate the German people. Peoples are not evil. Only individuals are evil. And yet I sometimes wonder how any of us might behave when we are forced out of our normal lives by destructive powers beyond our control. When I think of the differences in people's lives, past and present, I think of the horrific effects of war, the brutal conflicts of which virtually none of us here have ever been nor probably will ever be involved in. And the war which seems to capture our thoughts more than any other is the First World War. Perhaps this is partly because of the historical and geographic proximity to our own lives, and partly because, when viewed from a modern perspective, the thought of the loss of tens of thousands of our own young people across 100 yards of mud seems so utterly appalling. And yet, even then, hope existed. Siegfried Sassoon fought in that war. He saw the carnage with his own eyes. He looked upon the devastation and pain and death, and yet he was still able to write those words, which I can only describe as a testament to the ascent of the human spirit, when he said, "Everyone's voice was suddenly lifted, and beauty came with the setting sun. My heart is shaken with tears, and horror drifted away. Oh, but everyone was a bird, and the song was wordless, and the singing will never be done." When I was in my 20s, I saw a film called The Rickshaw Man. It was a Japanese film. And in this film, the rickshaw man used to take this wealthy young lady around. And they fell in love. But nothing could ever transpire in their relationship because of the social constraints of Japanese society at the time. And at one point in the film, he said to her, "You were born under a lucky star. And when I look at the life that I have had, and the lives that most of us here seem to have had and be having, lives that are often easier and longer than those of all the kings and princes of history, I think, yes, we were born under a lucky star too." The African lady in the story was found later. She was living with her one surviving daughter in utter poverty, a level of life that we can barely conceive. She was then helped and supported by donations made to the radio program, which had broadcast her terrible plight. Solomon Tauber, albeit a fictional character, but perhaps a symbol of the suffering of persecuted peoples everywhere, ended his letter with the words, "If ever these lines shall be read in the land of Israel, which I shall never see, will someone there please say Kaddish, the prayer of loss and mourning, for me." Thank you.